This week on Our Weird World, we are going back to a theme that we've done before, in that there is no theme. Just two stories today about two terrible people who were awful in their own unique way. This first story is gonna seem really terrible at first, and then we're gonna get into the second story. And the second story is pretty terrible. A couple of just pretty graphic details that rival some of the worst stories that we've covered. I'm not going to oversell how terrible it is because it's not as long of a story and it's not as drawn out as maybe David Parker Ray or Joseph Fritzl or Radovan Karadzic or anything like that. So it's still terrible, but I think you're used to it by now, which should tell you a lot about yourself as a person. So congrats for becoming desensitized to terrible things by listening to this show. You are now in the same boat as I am. It's Our Weird World.
Our Weird World.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I just got back from the bathroom. I needed to take a little potty break before I jumped into this episode because it seemed like it probably wasn't a good idea to wait. So just a little peek behind the curtain there. That's a weird way to start the show. This week, we were looking at two stories, no relation, but just other than that, they're two awful people. We're looking at the stories of Mary Toft and Patrick Kearney. And like I said, kind of in the open, awful in their own respective ways. And the first story is gonna seem like you're probably gonna sniff out the first story pretty quickly, but it's just terrible nonetheless. And the second story is rough. All right, you've been warned. It's story time. Our stories start on a warm summer day in the English countryside. Mary Toft, who was pregnant and probably should have been, doing anything else, was actually working out in the fields. And as she was harvesting whatever crops grow in England, she was startled by a rabbit and then just decided to chase after it because, what else is there to do? Although the rabbit got away, Mary became very obsessed with rabbits, presumably because pregnancy hormones and they do strange things to you women. I don't know how any of that works. But then later, Mary started to complain about some severe stomach pain. And then, much to everyone's horror, she had this piece of flesh, this as big as an adult arm, just right onto the ground. That was probably a juicy sound effect. Ugh. But here's the thing: no one really did anything after that. Everybody's just like, "Oh, that's weird. Oh, something fell out of here. Oh, that's gross." And then they just went on about their what's happening to pregnant women in England, where that can just happen, and people are just like, all right. Yeah, good. Keep on harvesting these beans for our beans and toast because we're gross and we think that's good dining. These beans on toast. Gross. Oh, really? What are they doing over there? A month later, though, Mary finally went into labor. Her neighbor came over to help with the delivery, but then watched in this just weird, curious terror as Mary proceeded to birth bits and pieces of dead animals rather than, the baby, the human child that was supposed to come flying out of there. Afterwards, the neighbor kind of gathered up the pieces and sent them around to various midwives to get some sort of explanation. John Howard, who was a man midwife, I guess that's the name. I kind of always assumed that midwives were women just because wife is typically a woman, but there are men. I don't know if they're called man midwives or mid husbands. I don't know. Anyway, John Howard, he was a midwife, a man midwife. he came over the next day to look at the bits for himself, and Mary showed him some fresh new bits that she had blasted out overnight. Howard gave Mary an examination, but found nothing really out of the ordinary. And a few days later, Mary went into labor again and produced even more animal parts. By November, John Howard had recorded Mary giving birth to 3 cat legs, a rabbit leg, feline intestines, and an eel's backbone. Like, that's gotta hurt, right? Like, I mean, maybe if I'm trying to think about an eel, I don't know, man. Maybe if it comes out one way, it's not so bad, but like, I don't know. That's still gross. Just straight up bones, like straight up rib cage, just right out of there. Like, my sound effect game is on point for this episode. Well, anyway, like, obviously, you'd expect. Word started spreading very quickly around the village, and Mary's story actually took the entire island of Great Britain by storm. Even King George I visited Mary to see what else was just coming out of there. Howard, who he is at this point fully convinced that Mary is just giving birth to random dead animal pieces, and by now, she had birthed enough parts to make a dozen rabbits. Like, that's how many, I don't know, feet and ears and little noses and tails and intestines, I guess, like full rabbits. And like, it was becoming a show. Like, John Howard was literally just inviting people over. He could time it up to just have people come over and watch Mary give birth to the, just shoot these parts out like just a gross t-shirt cannon of that's a weird visual. Anyway, by mid-November, the British royal family sent 2 people to investigate Mary's story a little bit further. Upon arrival, Mary, she's just like, oh, you want a show? You want to see me drop some dead animal bits out my vagina? All right, here we go. Thank you, Tula, as always, for interrupting the show with your scratches right on your collar. And then you shake to make even more noise. Why couldn't you be a cat? Yeah, keep scratching. That's fine. I'm just going to sit here. Just, yep. Yep, get in there. I'm digging in your ear now. It's probably what, like ear mites or something? Yeah. You're just doing it for attention. I know you are. There it is. Yep. Good stuff. All right. You good? Got it out of your system? You derailed the show enough for one night? Nope. We're going to keep going. All right. I'm going to sit here. I'm not taking any of this out. We're just going to pause right in the middle of this story so this dog can scratch because she thinks that she is part of this podcast. And she is not. All right. You done now? Thanks. Anyway. But yeah. So, the British royal family showed up. And as soon as they arrive, Mary drops just a whole rabbit's torso right out of the chute. One of the men examined it and actually really believed that the rabbit had been created in her fallopian tubes, which... Look, I'm not an anatomy expert. I'm not a biology expert, but I feel really confident that that is not where rabbits come from. I feel that's a pretty solid limb to go out on. The British royal family then returned a few days later to witness Mary giving birth to a wad of rabbit skin and then a whole rabbit's head. And rabbits' heads, I mean, they're like roughly the size of baby heads. So, I mean, this is getting really impressive. King George, he's obsessed with this woman and sent surgeon, what kind of name is this? Cyriacus Ahlers. He was a surgeon. To go visit Mary, see what's up there. Ahlers was immediately skeptical, as he should have been, since Mary wasn't really looking or acting like a normal pregnant woman at this point. And although he like claimed to kind of believe her story just to try to build some trust with her, Allers took some of the dead rabbit bits back to London with him and do a little studying. And after examining the parts, Allers discovered that the rabbits had been cut with a man-made instrument, as in like a knife, not like superhumanly strong pelvic muscles created by God. No, it was a knife. He also found pieces of straw and grain in the rabbit's intestines, which, you know, I don't think you're going to find that. I don't, look, again, I don't know how pregnancy works. Like, I don't think that, like, if a woman eats something, that then, like, little undigested pieces of it then make their way to the baby. I think the woman digests all the food, turns it into poop, and then little poops, probably not real poops, but, like, the nutrients from the food probably go to the baby. I don't know how any of this works, and I'm an adult. Let's see, where are we at? So he found the straw and the grain in the rabbit's intestines. That kind of raised some red flags. And then a week later, Allers presented his findings to the king, and that got everyone suspicious of how Mary kept giving birth to these dead animals. And several more doctors showed up to examine her and see for themselves. But Mary, she's continuing this, man. She is still dropping animal parts out of that thing, you know? And then finally, on December 4th, Thomas Onslow, a British politician, revealed in his own private investigation that Mary's husband, Joshua, had been buying an alarmingly high number of young rabbits from the village market. Wonder if that has something to do with it. When Howard then found out about that investigation, he confessed that the whole thing was a hoax, as if, like, did anyone really believe that this woman was just chucking dead animals out of herself? Like, no, I think we all knew it was a hoax. And Howard also confessed that he'd been bribed by Mary's sister-in-law to bring a rabbit to Mary's chamber, you know, on regular occasions. Richard Manningham, a renowned obstetrician, had been examining Mary for the last couple of weeks and had already helped birth what everyone thought was a pig's bladder. So he was in on it. And then with this new information swirling around, Manningham examined Mary again and believed that there was still something up there in her uterus and that maybe it wasn't actually a hoax. Ooh, a twist. No, just kidding. James Douglas, who was another man midwife who had witnessed the original birthing, interrogated Mary for several days. And finally, under the threat of receiving an unwanted and extremely painful operation to just go up in there and kind of dig around in her ovaries, Mary finally confessed that the whole thing was a hoax. She revealed that she had actually, unfortunately, miscarried a real baby back in August. And then, you know, while her cervix was kind of still in this whole baby spitting mode, she had an accomplice start shoving animal parts up inside her, which I got to question the cleanliness of that. Like, that can't be, that's how you get disease, right? Like, ugh. Mary claimed that she had been persuaded to perform the whole hoax by a traveling woman, just a vagabond, who told her that performing the stunt would make her famous and that she would never have to work again. And it almost worked. I mean, while Mary did become famous for a few weeks, she was forced back into her life of peasantry and working in the fields. The English medical profession, as they should have been, was mocked mercilessly for the next several months for having fallen for this stupid hoax. And Mary eventually died poor and not famous in 1763. And I'm going to pause this episode now because I want to make sure the dog isn't taking a dump on the floor downstairs. Yeah, how'd you like that? Fun little segment break thing. I was actually gone for like 5 whole minutes because someone had to be let out again. But in reality, in podcast world, it's only like 5 seconds, if that. Art is a lie. Nothing is real. Thank you, Bo Burnham. Anyway, this whole episode has just gone completely off the rails. Let's jump into our second story here. Patrick Kearney was born in East Los Angeles, California. Some point, I don't know. I didn't put the date in there. And he kind of grew up into this frail, sickly just small, wafy little person. And because of that, he was the target of all the bullies in high school, which, look, here's the thing. We're all bullied, all right? I went to a Christian school. We had bullies in the Christian school. Like, it doesn't matter where you go unless you're homeschooled. And even then, I think you should be bullied in homeschool. Like, I think your parents should, give you a hard time. But yeah, everybody deals with bullying. It shouldn't just destroy your entire life, but for some people it does, and that's unfortunate. And rather than seeking help by talking to a counselor or going to the gym to get strong enough to fight back against his tormentors, Patrick just kind of began to fantasize about killing everyone. Kearney was also gay, which didn't help. Like, not to say that like being gay is a detriment, but like when you're a tiny little frail little dude who's being bullied, being gay on top of all of that does not help the situation, because dudes are just going to be even meaner to you. But Patrick ended up kind of making a good life for himself. He went to college, got his degree, ended up working as an engineer at Hughes Aircraft. And when he wasn't doing that, though, he was out prowling the streets and picking up other gay men for doing whatever gay dudes do together. I don't know. I'm not a gay dude. Maybe they just sit around and watch like RuPaul's Drag Race or something. I don't know. I don't know what goes on. I don't know. I don't want to, I don't care to know. But in 1967, which, I mean, I guess RuPaul's Drag Race wasn't around in 1967, but beside the point. In 1967, Kearney met David Hill and moved into his home in Redondo Beach, California. That relationship, unfortunately, though, quickly went south. Kearney and Hill were fighting all the time. And to just get away and just, kind of calm down and decompress and all that, Kearney would just go on long drives around the area in his Volkswagen Beetle. And while on his drive, Kearney started to pick up hitchhikers or would just go to gay bars and persuade people to just come back with him and just have some gay fun. After moving in with Hill, the two made a trip down to Tijuana to visit one of their mutual friends named George. Somehow, during the course of the visit, without Hill ever finding out about this, Kearney went into George's bedroom in the middle of the night and shot him in the head. Then, I don't know if Hill is just like completely knocked unconscious or what, but Kearney then took the body, laid it in the tub, and then he sodomized it, because obviously you got to. He then dismembered and skinned the body with a single X-Acto knife. Oops, I hit the microphone with my glasses. This is not the episode. I am going to submit as part of my portfolio to be a professional podcaster. Not that I was going to do that anyway. Not that I deserve to. But this episode, not it. Not it at all. Anyway, an X-Acto knife. If you're too young to know what that is, as in you're in my generation or younger, it's basically a pocket knife. So, cool. Kearney then had just a rare moment of clarity as he's skinning this gay man alive. Or not alive, he's dead. Skinning him, gutting him like a deer. Once authorities found the body, they would be able to take the bullet that was in George's skull and trace it back to Kearney's gun. So Kearney somehow became an expert surgeon in like 5 minutes and extracted the bullet from George's head with like remarkable medical precision. And then he buried the body behind the garage. After laying low for a while and just kind of refining his murder skills, Kearney began a murder spree in 1974 where he averaged a murder a month, that's pretty impressive, right? The process was the same every single time. Kearney would go find people hitchhiking along the freeway or hanging out in gay bars. Typically, it was guys who resembled the people that had bullied him in high school. Ironic, right? And then he would invite them along for a ride or tell them, he would take them wherever they needed to go. And then as they cruised down the road, Kearney would pick up his Derringer 22 pistol and just shoot him in the head right above the ear in a moving car. That's pretty skilled. If you're going down the freeway, 55, 60, 70 miles an hour, you're just going to, in one motion, hand on the wheel, foot on the gas, I don't know, Fog Hat playing on the radio. Sure. I don't even know if that song was out in 74. But then one motion, grab your pistol, up to the side of the passenger's head, bang-o. And then he's just continuing to maintain the speed limit. And then he keeps his victims sitting upright so they don't slump over, so that, people around them don't think something's wrong. How blood does not splatter against the windows, I don't know. I don't know how he did that, but I guess that's how it worked out. But now that he's got his dead passenger, Kearney would then drive out to a secluded area and have sex with the dead bodies. When he was done, he would then dismember them with a hacksaw, throw the pieces in an industrial trash bag, and then dump the remains in various places. While most of Kearney's victims were adults, he did kill several children and teenagers along the way. On March 13th, 1977, 17-year-old John LeMay met Kearney's roommate Hill at a gym, and Hill invited LeMay over to hang out, because they're probably both gay. Thought some little gay fun would happen or whatever. When LeMay arrived, only Kearney was at the house, and Kearney was all about it, and he invited LeMay to come inside and watch TV until Hill got back home. Unfortunately, Kearney just couldn't help himself, and he shot LeMay in the back of the head like he did with everybody else. And then, as with all of his other victims, he dismembered the body and took it out to the desert and disposed of it. But 5 days later, police found LeMay's remains and opened an investigation. And when police learned that LeMay had last been seen at Kearney's residence, the two just skipped town. I guess Kearney kind of told him everything that had happened, and they fled to El Paso. But Kearney and Hill's family, they got a hold of them. They eventually persuaded them to turn themselves in, and Kearney eventually confessed to committing 35 murders, which is, a lot. I think we can agree. Hill was eventually cleared of any wrongdoing in any of this, but Kearney, on the other hand, pled guilty to 21 murders and was given a life sentence for each of them. So good job, justice system. Police were pretty sure that Kearney had committed several other murders and actually suspected him of a total of 43. But honestly, when you're already convicted and in prison for 21 lifetimes, you're just kind of creating more paperwork to convict him on the other 22. So police just didn't bother doing it. As of 2014, which is the most recent update I could find, Kearney was still in prison at the California State Prison at Mule Creek. And that, thank God, is the end of today's stories. So I want to address something. I kind of built the Patrick Kearney story up a lot because I get him confused with Robert Kraft. Randy Kraft. Robert, not the New England Patriots. I'm so all over the place today. I should re-record this episode. I just hit the microphone with my glasses again. I'm falling apart over here, you guys. My side was cramping. Right before I got into story time, I had to make another pause to deal with that. And then the dog again. This is I need to come back next week better than ever. Because this was not from a production standpoint, not my best work. All right. Super off the rails. Just got I mistook, I got my correction wrong. So anyway, let's try that again. I built up the Patrick Kearney story. And that's because I get him confused with Randy Kraft, because they were very similar. And Randy will be, a subject of a future episode for sure. But I always get him and I always get Kearney and Kraft mixed up, and it is Randy Kraft. It is not Robert Kraft. Two very different people. One really bad murderer. The other one, the worst thing he did, he got an illegal handy in a Florida massage parlor. Whoop-de freaking do. All right, let's see what we learned.
What did we learn?
Number one, look, if a woman starts spitting out duck feet, rabbit feet, cat ears, cat paws, whatever, something's probably up, and it's probably not legit. So I don't know, man. Threaten to cut her open and dig around her ovaries. She'll squeal. She'll come up. She'll fess up for sure. Number 2, look, don't bully kids in school. They could grow up to be gay murderers. And that could mean 2 things. That could mean they're a murderer who is gay, or they are a murderer who murders gay people, or both. Or they could just grow up to be a murderer. I don't think bullying someone inherently makes you gay. Probably has nothing to do with it. I think he was probably already gay. Dog, please go away. That's number 3. This dog. We've learned today, terrible dog. Bad at being a dog. Just disruptive. Just the bane of my existence. And, yeah. Let's get out of here. Next week on Our Weird World, I'm going to try to do better because we got a big episode. We're going to be talking about twins. Like, twins kind of creep people out. They're just, it's weird how connected they are in more ways than one, as we will see on next week's episode. We got several stories. We're going to talk about the Colorado twins, the Bunker twins, the Pollock sisters, the Gibbon sisters, the Erickson sisters. So a lot of sisters, a couple of brothers, but the sisters and brothers, they're all twins and they're all connected and related. And it's weird. There's a lot of weird stories next week. Really going to have you, leave you thinking about a lot of things. So that's going to do it. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this one, especially. This one was rough. If you made it to the end, thank you, sincerely, because this was a train wreck from the start. But thank you for listening. Maybe don't tell your friends about this one. That one's okay. That's fine. I would totally get it. And also just, keep it weird.